You're 16, on the garage floor, dragging a torpedo level across a wobbling workbench until the bubble centers and the rocking stops. The level cost you about $20 at Home Depot. 3 decades later, you sell the business, a machinery-moving outfit that books $3,747,991 a year in revenue. Between those two moments sits an industry where a single hour of downtime can cost a plant $2.3 million. The job is simple to say. A millwright installs and aligns the heavy machines that run a factory. Make one sit dead level and dead true, and nobody notices, which is exactly the point. This is every level of a millwright's career in America, and what it actually costs to climb. If you like breakdowns of how careers actually progress, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Level 1. The wobble. You're not getting paid for this. You're spending. The workbench in the garage rocks every time you lean on it, because the concrete floor slopes a good half-inch from the back wall down toward the door. You find the short corner first. You fold a shim out of a cereal box, slide it under the leg, and the rocking stops. You cut the next one too thick, and the bench tips the other way, so you shave it down, seat it flat, and it sits still. Then you lay the torpedo level across the top. You chase the bubble, left, then right, until it parks dead center. The level cost about $20. It just told you what your eye couldn't. Flat is a number, not a feeling. You stop eyeballing it. You bolt a bench vise down square. You tighten a wobbling ceiling fan mount. You tension a slipping drive belt until it quits squealing. You re-square a flat pack cabinet so the doors stop swinging open on their own. None of it is hard. All of it has to be true. There's a difference between close and dead on, about 1/1000th of an inch, and your hands can't feel it yet. Your dad sets a full glass of water on the bench, and the surface doesn't move. Then it's quiet again. You don't know it yet, but you've just learned the only thing the whole trade is about: making metal sit true. Nobody pays you for it here. The first one who will is waiting on the other side of a job application. Level 2. The helper. You're 18, and somebody finally pays you to do it. About $22 to $25 an hour, which is 60% of what a journeyman makes, and your rate steps up as you log hours. You are the bottom of the crew, and the work shows it. You hump tool bags and rigging up 6 flights before the journeyman finishes his coffee. You hold the dumb end of a Lufkin tape and read it back, twice, because you got it wrong the first time. You fetch shims and label them by the thou. A thou is 1/1000th of an inch, the unit this whole trade runs on. You wirebrush rust and cosmoline off the ways of a new machine until your forearms ache. You show up before the crew and unload the job truck, so by the time the journeyman climbs down, the tools are already staged at the machine. Then they let you rig. You set cribbing under a pallet of motors, slide a machine skate beneath it, and run a come-along to drag the base into place. The first solo pull goes sideways. The load skews, the chain fall jumps, and a hand goes up before you can panic. You reset the rigging, re-square the pull, and the base rolls in dead straight. Nobody says a word, which on a crew is how you know you did it right. You quit dropping the dumb end of the tape. Lisa Coulter runs training at Millwright's Local 1121 in New England. She's the one who signs first-year apprentices into their rigging and signaling classes. Your first paycheck is mostly per-class fees. But it clears, and you cash it anyway. The work is humping and bird-dogging and grout dust in the back of your throat. Some mornings, that's the whole job. To get off the bottom, you need a card. That means the United Brotherhood of Carpenters apprenticeship. 4 years and 8,000 hours before anyone calls you a journeyman. You sign up. Ready for Level 3? Level 3. The Journeyman. You're 24, and the line is yours now. The Bureau of Labor Statistics puts the median millwright wage at $65,170 a year, about $31 an hour. Nobody holds your hand anymore. A pump on the main line is vibrating, and the plant manager wants it back before the shift ends. You walk up, and the first thing you do is kill it. You clip a red padlock on the disconnect and hang the tag. Danger, do not operate. The federal lockout-tagout rule has been law since 1990, and skipping it can cost the company up to $165,514. You verify zero energy, then you pull the coupling. You crack each hold-down bolt to check for soft foot, the machine frame that won't sit flat on its base no matter how hard you torque it down. You miss one. You rough align the pump to the motor by straight edge, Then mount the Starrett dial indicator to dial it in to 0.02 of an inch. By noon, the bearing is running hot. You smell it before the gauge confirms it. The line goes back down, and now it's costing the plant $2.3 million an hour. You make 31. Siemens put that downtime number in a 2024 report, and standing under a deadline, you understand exactly why a plant pays it. So you go back to the frame. You find the soft foot you missed. Cut a full shim and seat it flat. You stop stacking partial shims. You reshoot the alignment, torque the anchor bolts to the spec sheet, and recheck. The needle on the dial indicator holds at 0.02. You pull the lock, release it to operations, and the bearing temperature drops back before the shift ends. The pump runs smooth, and nobody upstairs ever hears about the 3 hours it nearly cost them. Kevin Marks is a training manager at Turner Industries, and he helps write the National Rigging and Signal Standards journeyman like you test against. The standard he sets is the one in your hands at 2 in the morning. That's the difference now. At level 2, you held the dumb end of the tape. At level 3, the plant loses money every minute you're slow, and you're the one they call. What matters is the needle, not the clock. It's the same shim, the same bubble, the same thousandth you chased on the garage floor at 16. Only now the machine costs more than your house. The next rung trades the dial indicator for a laser. It costs more than your truck, and it does exactly what the $20 torpedo level did in the garage. Make metal sit true. Level 4. The specialist. You're 28, and your hands are the most precise in the building. The pay reflects it, around $38 to $45 an hour, near the top of what an employed millwright earns. You don't pull couplings with a dial indicator anymore. You anchor the base plate with Hilti studs and rough align by straight edge before the laser ever runs. Then you mount 2 laser heads on the shaft and shoot the alignment. The Prüftechnik laser reads vertical offset, horizontal offset, and angularity all at once. You correct all 3 live, shimming and sliding the feet while the readout chirps towards center. But first, you kill the soft foot, every time, because the laser only tells the truth on a frame that sits flat. Here's the trap. A machine that's perfect cold walks out of tolerance hot. The reading looks excellent on the bench, and an hour after startup, the coupling is fighting itself. So you dial in a thermal growth target. You set it slightly off cold, so it pulls dead true once the metal heats and grows. You stop trusting the cold reading. You reshoot it hot, and the coupling holds inside excellent on a machine running at full speed. You print the alignment report and sign it. David Applegate trains operators at TNT Crane and Rigging, and he sits on the national panel that writes the rigger and signal person certification the whole industry tests against. That certification, NCCER Rigger and Signal Person, is the one that meets the federal crane and rigging rules. You earn it. Now they hand you the heavy lifts. You rig multi-ton machines onto a 200-ton hydraulic gantry, calculate the sling angles, and skid them into place to a hair. A reading drifts on a gearbox install. You trace it to a soft foot under the back leg, and it locks in. Then it's quiet, and the gearbox just runs. You're paid for accuracy nobody will ever see. The next step doesn't pay more by the hour. It pays more by being gone. Level 5. The road. You're 35, and you don't work in one plant anymore. You work wherever a turbine comes apart. The base rate is about $35 to $45 an hour. But that's not why you go. You go for the per diem and the overtime. $100 to $178 a day on top, working 60 to 72-hour weeks while the outage runs. Every hour that unit stays cold, the plant loses about $260,000 by Aberdeen Research's count. Your check says $45 an hour. That gap is the whole reason the job exists. You mobilize in, badge through the gate, and sit the foreign material briefing before you touch a tool. You take a work package, lock out your section, and verify zero energy. Then you tear into a steam turbine the size of a school bus. You pull the curved buckets out of the rotor with a blade spreader, lay them out in order, and overhaul what's worn. One bucket fights you. The fit's tight, the spreader slips, and you reset instead of forcing it. Forcing it would have scarred the seat and blown the schedule. You torque every fastener to the vendor spec with a torque multiplier, and the inspector signs the hold point. You Prüftechnik align the turbine train, button it up, and the unit spins back online a shift ahead of plan. You stop unpacking your bag all the way. The job truck out front is stenciled with a contractor's name, and for now it's somebody else's name. Chris Calderon runs crane and rigging as a superintendent at Bechtel, and crews like the one you're on answer to men in his chair. The work clusters where the big iron is, nuclear plants, Gulf Coast refineries. So you live out of the job truck more weeks than not. Then it's the next plant. The per diem clears, the overtime clears, and the bank account climbs faster than it ever did standing still. After a decade of this, you've seen enough plants to know how to run a whole job yourself. The next move is to stop renting your hands out and start renting out everyone else's. Level 6. The owner. You're 45, and you don't turn wrenches for a paycheck anymore. You own the outfit. You bid turnkey plant moves, mobilize a crew and a yard full of iron, and set every machine to laser tolerance before a single invoice goes out. You buy and maintain heavy rigging forklifts, a 200-ton hydraulic gantry, and a fleet of stenciled job trucks. You carry payroll, workers, comp, and a liability certificate on every job. You quote against downtime that costs the customer more in an hour than your whole bid, which is why nobody blinks at your price. A one-truck rigging shop, 2 states over lists for $224,000. The machinery moving outfit you just outbid sold for $3,747,991. That second number is where you're headed. Matt Joinson owns Jeffrey Millwright and Welding in British Columbia and runs alignment across mines and mills. He tells you flat, make sure your alignment tool is IP rated for all weather conditions. You stop reaching for your own wrenches. A plant move you bid in spring finishes on schedule, nothing damaged, and the invoice clears the next week. You reinvest in a second gantry, and jobs you couldn't touch a year ago are yours now. The Bureau of Labor Statistics counts only 37,930 millwrights in the whole country. There aren't many of you, and the ones who own the iron are fewer still. Your laser fleet does the same job your dial indicator did, which did the same job the torpedo level did. The yard smells like diesel and hydraulic fluid, and the grout dust is on somebody else's crew now. Then a broker calls about buying you out. You sign the sale, the cash flow underneath the business. $948,555 a year is what makes a buyer drive out to write the check. 3 decades ago, you spent about $20 on a torpedo level to stop a workbench from rocking. That torpedo level still exists. It sits on a shelf in the office, next to a Prüftechnik laser that costs more than your first truck. They do the exact same thing. Make metal sit true. The $20 tool was never the small one. The whole trade was hiding in that bubble the entire time. Down in the shop, a kid you just hired is on his knees next to a pump. He bought a torpedo level at Home Depot for about $20 because that's where everybody starts. He's chasing the bubble to dead center, the same way you did on the garage floor. He doesn't know yet that flat is a number. He will. You think about the years on the road, the outages, the plants you closed up at 2 in the morning, the home stretches that were always too short. You do it again, every hour of it. The wobble you fixed for free at 16 turned into a business that paid for the rest of your life. You don't carry tools anymore. You don't have to. The office is quiet, the yard is full, and the trucks outside have your name on the doors. Out front, the lead truck pulls onto the road for a job you'll never lift a finger on. The keys to it are on a hook by the door. And they're yours,